That was dramatic. Just kidding. Hello, how you doing? Welcome, you stunningly gorgeous people of the internet. Who am I to shy away from a little bit of drama? A little bit of drama. No, I don't enjoy reveling in drama, but I read a lot of books and I have some thoughts about things that I like and dislike about books. I wouldn't say that I so ardently hate a book that I don't get anything out of it. Truly, I believe that I get something out of every single book that I read, but there are certain things about books that I just don't particularly mesh with, that I don't love, that I don't actively seek. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. Things about books that just make me mad. It's a little bit of a reach for the title, but we're going to go with it. So why don't we start with the lowest hanging fruit, and that is the aesthetic of books, the look of books. There's just a couple, so let's talk about them. The number one thing that takes me out of a book, and I know that there's a lot of contention about this, so I appreciate if you love this, but I don't love it, and that is deckled edges. Ooh. It really doesn't make me that irate. I'm just trying to catch my breath right now. Deckled edges for me, I understand the idea of a deckled edge. I understand where it's coming from and I understand the associations with a deckled edge. I think for a particular type of book, especially if it's a book trying to talk about history or have this very antiquated feel, it's set in a certain time period or it's sci-fi and it's supposed to maybe look like something, I totally get that. For me, physically, just touching it and trying to turn a page and feeling that deckled edge does not do it. It does not do it. I don't love it. It totally takes me out. Totally takes me out. But again, I understand why it is the way it is. I understand the cooperation of the outside of the book mirroring the inside of the book. I just don't love it. Sue me, sue me, sue me, sue me. So punch one, down. Fighter. Down. KO. Okay. Number two, I don't love hardcovers. I don't love hardcovers. I understand, actually, I didn't understand this. Somebody left a comment on a video and I believe them. I didn't do further research, but I believe them. They said hardcovers are how the author originally wanted the book to be seen, which I get. More pristine, more held together, much more durable. But as far as a reading experience, I don't love a hardcover. I think I much more maybe prefer collecting hardcovers, keeping them the way they are, and using a soft cover to just have a more malleable experience. But hardcovers for me, it's not a comfortable reading experience necessarily, unless I'm sitting in a chair the entire time and have that beauty of being able to be stable in one place and not having to lug it around. I read hardcovers, obviously. I'm not going to shy away from that. It's just not a preferred reading experience. So that's that. The third aesthetic that I hate with a burning passion, and I think it should be banned. I'm putting a bill in order now that it should be banned. Movie cover, movie poster, book covers. I'm trying to think about the best way to word this, but you know what I'm saying. I feel like this is universally understood that it's just cringe. Oh, I don't like it at all. When there's a book, a beautifully well-received book, popular enough to be turned into an adaptation, either a TV show or a movie, and then Netflix or Hulu or Universal or all those production houses move in and say, hey, you know what's a great idea? Let's put the cover on the book and let's make it so that that's the only cover that you can find. Let's do it. Let's make it. Let's make it that way. Why not? I'm sure they're gonna love it. And don't even get me started if there is a little thing, a little sticker that says, now produced by Netflix. I don't have Netflix. I'm an HBO girl all the way. I don't like Netflix. I don't want to have that on my book. If it's a peel-off sticker, sure, fine, whatever. Usually they're not. Usually they're just cemented right there to remind me it's a Netflix show. I read Lost Girls. Fine cover. Every sort of nonfiction cover feels like it looks the same. But not this one. It had a Netflix sticker on it. And oh boy, was I reminded every day about it. Now, on the other hand, I feel like it can be done well. You can have a movie poster as your cover. The Piano Teacher by Elfriede Jelinek. Beautiful, 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 beautiful cover. Beautiful adaptation of the movie poster onto the cover. The saturation turned up, the colors, beautiful. The silhouette, stunning, stunning, stunning. I actually recreated it with my husband Oleg as a thumbnail for my video about that book to movie comparison. Loved it. Fantastic. There's ways to do it. There's ways to make it grand, but just don't take the easy way out. Knockout. Okay, so let's talk about fiction books, things in fiction books that I've come to find that I don't really love. Okay, so some of these are elements of books that have been around forever, and sometimes I don't think I'm smart enough to really understand and use and implement these tools to make it a great reading experience for me. But I'm just going to talk about, I don't hate these, every time I open a book and I find that these are there, I'm still going to get something out of it. I'm still going to have an experience with it, but I don't love it. In fiction books specifically, when there's footnotes. Come on now. That's tough. That's tough on me because I'm just going along with the story, and then there's a little number or an asterisk, and then I gotta go and read even smaller font about what's going on in the story, and takes me out of it a little bit, and then I gotta scramble up to the page and read it again. In nonfiction, I read a lot of books with footnotes in nonfiction, more citations, things like that. I don't mind that. I don't mind that at all because it's already not a super linear story and it's just kind of addressing facts. So I want to get more of the concreteness and understanding of nonfiction with footnotes. I like that. Infinite Jest. Never finished it. Got to about page 200 and then it was destroyed by a flood. And I said, that's divine intervention. I liked that book a lot when I was reading it. The footnotes in the back of the book murdered me. Brilliant device. So innovative and so cool, right? If I was smart enough to be able to flip, 1,000 pages every couple of pages and be able to stay retained in that story, it would be great. And obviously people are able to do it. People love that book. That's a celebrated classic at this point. I don't like footnotes in fiction. It hurts me. It hurts me, and I'm not smart enough to get it. Second one, to kind of piggyback off of footnotes and to kind of piggyback, I guess, I'm not targeting Infinite Jest at all. I think it's a great book and I remember a lot what I read with it. But Stream of Consciousness. Lots of books have this. Lots and lots and lots and lots of books have this. And this is a tried and true way to tell a story. I think it's great if it's done well and if I can read the book in a day or two. If I can just sit down and completely follow that stream of consciousness throughout. But if it is so complicated, it's like a puzzle, and you really lose track of where you are. To me, yes, that is augmenting my reading experience. It's taking me along on this really labyrinthian tour of somebody's mind, and it's showcasing the character in such a strong way. But for me, girl, I am lost. I'm trying. I'm really trying. My stream of consciousness is working for me. Reading somebody else's and getting lost in it, it's not really working. The most successful stream of consciousness that I've read recently is Clarice Lispector's one about the cockroach. Totally forgot what the name of it was, but I read that recently and I thought it was successful because I could read it in a couple of days. I was fully momentumed in. I was using the momentum and the natural flow of thinking to read it. Sometimes if it takes me a long time and I pick it up, I'm on page 70, I haven't read it in 2 days, and then I pick it back up. Like, what were we thinking about? I don't remember. It's a tough one for me. I don't actively seek out stream of consciousness books now. I don't hate it. It's just not a preferred thing for me to enjoy, I guess. Okay, The last thing about fiction books that's been driving me a little crazy lately is if there's just like a really loose ending. I can't get behind that lately. I find it so much now that I start a book, I'm really into the characters, I want to figure out their lives, and then it's just like, well, and then he drove off. Okay, so I spent 15 hours reading about these characters, really getting invested into them, kind of knowing that it was a wandering sort of story, that maybe there wasn't a lot going to happen at the end. And then it's just, the writer was like, well, they'll figure it out. They'll figure it out. We'll just leave it open, which is great. We do that a lot. We do it in movies, we do it in TV shows, we do it in our day-to-day lives. Everything is open. There's barely any concrete endings, right? But if I'm reading a story, there's a part of me that's reading for pleasure. And I want to have an ending now. I just feel like there's a beautiful merit to having the reader decide on their own and having the reader trust the reader enough to figure out an ending on their own. But sometimes I just feel like I just want an ending. I just want like one sentence to be like, yeah. Perfect example. I was just reading The Island by Karen Jennings. I knew nothing about this author. I knew nothing about this book. Apparently it was a Booker finalist. I didn't know that. I was reading the book. It was a slight little book. It's about this man who lives on this island. He has had a very storied background, and he lives on his own. He's kind of rehashing and trying to understand his past through flashbacks. In the midst of all of that, a man washes ashore, kind of breaks the tedium of his life on the secluded island. I'm reading it. Feels like things are happening. There's a little bit of momentum, but I'm thinking, okay, this is going to be just one of those wide open stories. It's just going to end, and I'm really not going to think too much about it. The last page, there was 1 or 2 sentences. She wrapped it up. She wrapped it up. She wrapped it up. She made a decision, and she said, I don't care if the audience is going to hate this decision. I'm making the ending of a story. And truly, I think that's one of my favorite books that I've read this year because it gave me an ending. I thought it was great. I thought it was great storytelling. And that's what I'm looking for. I've talked about it a million times. That's what I'm looking for. Let's talk about nonfiction, shall we? Yes, we shall. I read a lot of nonfiction. I love nonfiction. I really, really love nonfiction. And there's not much that I can complain about with nonfiction because it's basically you're getting what you seek. If I want to read a book about milk, that's the first thing that came to mind. I can find a book about milk. But there are a couple of things that make me not enjoy my experience. So the first one is memoirs that kind of promise one thing but give me another. Follow me on this. I find a really hard time critiquing memoirs because it's somebody's life story. It's somebody putting a book out there. And again, have I ever written a novel? No, I haven't. And I assure you, if it was written, it probably wouldn't be that good. I read a lot of memoirs that are very successful. I like a lot of outdoor reading. I find A Walk in the Woods great because I was learning about the Appalachian Trail alongside Bill Bryson. Wild by Cheryl Strayed. I knew who she was because of the kind of famous novel that Wild became, but I didn't really know about her. And I learned about her, but I also learned about the Pacific Crest Trail. Jamaica Kincaid, I knew about Jamaica Kincaid, but Flowers in the Himalaya, well, not the best book ever, but I'm learning about the Himalaya, and I'm learning about flowers, and I'm learning about things alongside the author. Example, there's a book, Tacky, A Love Letter to the America's Worst Culture or something like that, by the author Rax King. Knew nothing about the author, but picked this book up because I'm a little tacky, and I wanted to read something that was about tackiness. What I didn't realize I was getting into was I was getting into just a memoir about King's association with tacky events tied into her life. So it wasn't so much about tackiness, it wasn't so much about the birth of tackiness, highlighting these things that were specifically tacky, seen as tacky. It was just kind of mentioning them and then tying it back to Rax's life, which is fine. That's what a memoir is, right? But I was kind of sold on the idea that it was going to be much more about tackiness. And that's all in marketing. That's fine. It's just like a little thing. I read a lot of memoirs. I love memoirs. I love reading people's stories. I think it's great. I have no complaints aside from that. The last nonfiction thing that really drives me up the wall is kind of stage discourse. And this is for one specific instance that really grinded my gears, like grinded them. There was a book called The Subway Book Review or something like that. I'll put the picture up here. And I'm a New Yorker. I take the subway a lot. I see thousands of people a day when I walk outside my door. There's so many beautiful, diverse backgrounds. There's so many people that have interesting stories to tell. And what made the Subway Book Review interesting was that the conductor of it, conductor in Subway, the conductor of these interviews would find people at random on the subway reading a book, and she would start a conversation with them, and she'd learn about them through the novel that they were reading, which is beautiful because that's what New York City is all about. The randomness, the anonymity, the stunning way to just bump into somebody and find that you have a connection with them. Wrong. That is not what this book was about. This book, instead of picking random people, highlighting the genuineness of New Yorkers, it was staged interviews, writers, with actors, with rock stars, with people who already had these profound followings, and a couple of just random people sprinkled in throughout. And it just boggled my mind that you would take this book that had such a valuable way of showing how books connect people, and how sometimes really you can't judge a book by its cover, right? You look at somebody on the subway and you see that they're reading something that you would never expect them to read, this beautiful interaction, and then just presenting these staged versions of the truth. That drives me crazy. When a book, you can tell, a nonfiction book is kind of staged in its genuineness, and that drives me up a wall. You can sniff it from a mile away when you start the book and you feel like there is a staged mechanism of presenting these facts, and that drives me crazy because I want something researched. I want the author to be learning alongside you and then presenting what they found. But I'm perfect, so there's obviously no thing that can be said about me. I'm perfect. These books just aren't. Obviously, I'm kidding. Maybe. That was just a little ramble, just like a short little fun video that I would love to know what are the things that just kind of, you pick up a book and you don't love your experience with it. Over on my Patreon, I've started this gossip series where I talk about things that kind of extend a little bit past the novel, the communities of readers and things like that, where I share my takes on them. And if you want to check those out, you definitely can. But anyway, you guys are wonderful. You're fabulous. Thank you so much for being here. Let me know what grinds your gears. Let me know. I will see you in the next one.